Hi, everybody. It's Jennifer Smith at Murphy Business here in Cape Girardeau. And today we're going to talk about nice, round, big, fat numbers. So, Kate and I like to say if we had a dime for every time somebody told us that their Main Street business was worth $1 million, or their lower middle market business was worth 5 million or 10 million or 20 or 30 million dollars, we would have a lot of dimes. It seems to me that people have this magic number in their mind, and it's based much more on kind of a psychological need than it is on anything else. Sometimes it's driven by how much they feel like they need to retire comfortably, and sometimes it's based on how much debt the business has and the fact that they want to make sure that the debt is fully satisfied at closing. But whenever we hear these nice, big, fat, round numbers, they're very rarely rooted in anything, any financial metric that really makes sense to a buyer. Therefore, they're just not attainable for the most part, and then we have to reset expectations. So, what do buyers care about? Well, they don't really even care about your revenue. I know that sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but they don't care how much revenue you have to put on the bottom line to get a particular amount of cash flow. What they're buying is a multiple of cash flow. And it doesn't really matter how much money it takes coming in the door to get that cash flow out the door. So let's talk about that a little bit. So every industry has their best practices. They've got standard margins, they have average inventory, normal turnover rates for an inventory, typical staffing models, and things like that that are used for benchmarking purposes. Every industry and business also has comparable transactions on what buyers have actually paid for cash flow in that industry. And we know what buyers are willing to pay to acquire that cash flow. So when we start working with a seller, we tell them that the very first step is going to be to get a broker opinion of value. Let's find out what the business is actually worth on the open market. When we do that, we recast the financials. So don't get nervous if your financials don't necessarily reflect what you're actually doing on a day-to-day basis with the business, because we're going to recast those and strip out any non-cash items and strip out any seller discretionary items and find out what the business is actually producing, regardless of who owns it. Then we're going to find out what buyers are paying as a multiple of that cash flow, that recasted cash flow. It's a very, very highly predictable model in terms of telling us what a business is likely to sell for in the open market. Our business valuations, by the way, are accurate plus or minus 3% when we compare them to actual sales over the last 10 years. So that's a pretty fantastic track record, and we're very confident that when we come up with a broker opinion of value, that really is where the market says that business is going to settle out. Now, the reality is that this is a very emotional time for sellers. Everybody wants top dollar, right, for their business. And sometimes there's a feel-good component with that $1 million or that $5 million. And if we can get it, believe me, we're going to get it because our interests are aligned with the sellers. We want them to get top dollar for that business. And if it's possible to do that, then we're going to absolutely shoot for it. But what we don't want to do is overvalue a business and have it sit there on the market and not move because it's overpriced, right? And we don't want to undervalue it because then everybody's leaving money on the table, and that's not a good deal either. So if you really do want to get that $1 million figure, or you really do need more to retire than what your business is worth today, or you really are a little bit underwater from a debt standpoint, reach out to us early. Let's have a conversation about what it's going to take to get you to that big round number that you're looking at. We're not saying you can't hit it, but most of the time when sellers start the conversation with us, they just can't hit that big round number just yet. So we like to set those expectations. If you want to have a conversation with us, it's completely confidential. We'll talk with you about what your options are. We'll probably want to value the business and find out what it's worth so that we can start the conversation and decide whether it's better for you to sell now or to sell later, whether you're doing an internal sale or an external sale. Again, I'm Jennifer Smith with Murphy Business of Cape Girardeau. Hope you're doing well, and thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.